team. Welcome to 10 Talk. So, another conversation. Mark and I are doing a series. We are here to really serve and support you and win well-being. We want to win your well-being. We want to really give you information and help you navigate change. We have a list of topics that we've been doing, and Mark, it's been such a gift to be able to team up to really serve and support from a doctor perspective and from a coaching perspective. So today's topic is fear of failure. So team, I know that's going to resonate with all of us at some point in our life, and sometime when we've gone for greatness or we've made it through change, whatever's happened, fear of failure has been a component. So Mark, just to catch our team up, let's share your credentials again, a little bit about you, and then we'll get right into our topic.
Absolutely. So, hey guys. Again, I'm Dr. Mark Allen. I'm a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist specializing in sports psychiatry. And I am physically based out of Denver, but I beam myself via telehealth kind of around the country. So my credentials and stuff will be online. But I'm just really happy to be here, and I think it's been really fun working with Carlette.
And for all of our New Zealand, all of our Kiwis, we share that as well. And shout out to them. We love working in New Zealand. You shared some time in New Zealand as well.
I sure did. I'd worked in Christchurch with the Canterbury District Health Board, having done work down there in the child psychiatry department and at an eating disorder facility, the South Island Eating Disorder Service. Love New Zealand, love the outdoors. I think the pace of life and just the quality of everything down there is fantastic. I think the United States has a lot to learn.
I totally agree. And so to our team in New Zealand, thank you for being such tens. And Mark and I look forward to serving and supporting all of you. And really, New Zealand is a place that's near and dear to our hearts. So let's just talk about fear of failure, where it comes from, why we have it. Mark, what I find so interesting when we really think about fear of failure is we think we're going to not ever have that again, or we think that once we've mastered something, oh, I've got this. So for instance, I've made it to college sports, I've got this, or I've made it to the pros, or from an executive level, I've made it. And doesn't it show up even more once we've kind of made it?
Yes. So I like to think of fear, especially within the sports world, as being two different kinds. So there's fear of failure and there's fear of success. So the fear of failure, that crop of folks, so they're like the rookies, the ones that have put the time and effort in, and they fear making the jump or making the next step. Pause. Fear of success are the folks that have had that taste. They've actually gotten to the top of the mountain, and then they fear not being able to replicate it again, or what some of the social ramifications of being able to do it again. So that's like when you have like a little bit of a sophomore slump, where you've made it, and then you worry that you're not able to maintain at the top of the mountain. Fear is an emotion. It's the emotional component to anxiety, and we've talked in the past about performance anxiety and the yips and that sort of thing. But fear it occurs when you get worried about. I think the actual quote is the uncertainty of the unknown and a sense of impending doom. Put those two together, boom, fear. But it's, as Michael Jordan would say, it's an illusion. It's almost like a choice of an emotion that you have, because really it doesn't exist. Now, some of these other components, like your biology, can tell you that a bear is chasing you, as we've discussed in the past. But when there's no bear there, you're worried about something that's not there, or uncertain. So the task at hand is scary. Well, we need to actually sit back in the present. So fear exists in the future, not the present. We need to ground ourselves, and we'll talk about that.
Well, Mark, what's interesting when we talk about sport, and even from a corporate perspective, going for it, we talk about whether you're playing to win or playing not to fail. And those are very, very different in terms of playing to win. Competitive greatness is there, and you are going for it. You're playing free. You know there's going to be some risk involved. You know that you're going to miss some shots or make some mistakes, and you're ready to really accept that responsibility. And when you're playing not to lose, it's really anchored in that fear of failure or success.
Absolutely. Well, you're not playing loose. The famous football coach, Jimmy Johnson, he had said, it really comes down to philosophy. I'm quoting him here. Do you want to play it safe and be good, or do you want to take a chance and be great? So that, again, that controlled risk taking. And another way of looking at it, there's a great book called Bounce, and author Matthew Syed, he said, life has two paths. One is the path to mediocrity, and the other is the path to excellence. Mediocrity, that path is flat, and straight, and paved, and you kind of know how it's going. The path to excellence is steep and grueling and arduous. And so you actually have to take that step. If you want to get to the top of the mountain, you got to be doing some climbing, right?
So from an energy and emotional management, when we know that, okay, I want to do the climbing, I definitely want to go for competitive greatness. My heart and my mind say yes, but physiologically I'm terrified or the anxiety is hit. And really that illusion of fear is somewhat taking over. What do I do?
Well, so there's truly three ways that you can address fear. And one way is actually just getting experience. So what we call that desensitization. Because when you continue to be exposed, this is what like where practice, where you're actually, it's like committed practice. By putting the work in, you're gaining mastery, and you know that you can do what it is that you're setting out to achieve. So experience helps, but also, but like once you hit game time, the people that have been in the league for years already know what's to expect when there's 30 seconds left in the game, or when you have to make that long drive down the field, do the 2-minute drill. Whereas someone who's never been there, oh my gosh, this is new surrounds. I don't know what to expect. Fear of uncertainty, right? And they can let their emotions wave in on them, and it just prevents them. It's like that cloud in front of their commitment. So there was actually a great quote by, was it some kind of Buddhist monk or something, basically saying that the sun is always there. On a cloudy day, it's still there behind the clouds, basically fear, doubt, shame. So you have to really focus on clearing that out so that the sun will still shine. Yeah. That's very much paraphrased, but you get it. So step one, gaining experience. So say you're not a veteran, right? You're one of the rookies. How do you get experience? Aside from putting the work in and being and kind of trusting that you're there, you can do visualization tasks. And that's where you actually walk through in your mind pre-game what you think or what should happen during the game. And so that's where you activate all of your senses. So, and a lot of very successful players will do this. They'll spend 30 minutes to an hour before a game in a quiet, dark space, just zenning out, and they're going to think in their mind and actually visualize them being on the field. So they'll smell the grass, they'll see, the texture, of the light hitting the stadium. Like they're like there, and then they can actually get into the batter's box, see how the pitcher's staring at them, watching the ball, seeing the laces, like all of this happening before this game's even started. So of course, once you get to the game, you feel prepared, and so you're like ingraining experience as you go. And so it'll be a lot less overwhelming and anxiety provoking, and fear won't set in nearly as much because you already were there. Now it's easier said than done, but it takes a lot of practice. So visualization is not a skill that you're going to learn overnight, but with more practice, you'll get good at it, and then it'll be a lot easier. So that's kind of step one. Mm-hmm. So step two is really getting some context. So there's a couple kinds of fears. There's a real genuine fear where the bear is chasing you, you're actually in clear danger, and then there's the sport related fear. Sports in general, they're there for entertainment and fun, and as an athlete, if you committed to it, it becomes part of your identity. So I totally get the draw. I mean, we're both talking about sports and sports psychology here. We clearly love it, but it's not life or death on the field. So assuming that whatever happens is not going to be the end of the world, that life will go on, like truly it will go on. You may feel in the moment that, oh my gosh, I can't live with myself if I miss this shot. But if you've already thought about that, you've lost the game. But putting it in context is very, very helpful. So experience, desensitization, recontextualization, and then finally 3, faith, whether it be higher power or just really an inner trust of yourself. So knowing that you've done the work. So you can't just show up to the game and think that you're going to, just ride on with talent. You have to also know you've put in the work, or that you can take over in the game, and that you can just let fear melt away because you're there. That's how Michael Jordan was like, well, I know I'm good. The confidence is from that trust, right? So he did miss 9,000 shots in the NBA, but he also, was considered the greatest of all time. He did miss 26 game-winning shots, but he made a lot of them. And people don't remember that stuff. I mean, Babe Ruth had 714 home runs, and he struck out 1,300 times.
Yeah.
So, which, relatively speaking, that's pretty great. A lot of failure, but baseball specifically, it's a stats game. It's a game of failure. You're only expected to succeed 30% of the time, which means you failed 70% of the time at bat. So anyway, get the context going. Mm-hmm. Make sure you've had experience, and then also just trust that you've put the work in. Boom, boom, boom. Failure is gonna fail.
It's part of the game.
Yep.
Well, Mark, what is so valuable about that in our sports life coaching work is our tools for competitive greatness. The formula is truth, faith, and love. And so when you talk about the truth is, you have to be able to put the work in, and that visualization can be the truth component to where you are practicing, you are walking through it. The reason we start with truth is that you got to own, have you done the work? Have you put the work in? Are you practicing at that really high level? Rather than kind of negotiating that, hey, I've made some other choices. I really haven't been at the top of my game, but coach should put me in. I'm sure that adrenaline's going to kick in. Instead of just kind of hoping that things are going to work out, we're going to anchor in the truth is I've put in my hours. I've made great nutritional choices. I've been sleeping. I'm really owning my truth. And then moving into the faith component of trusting the process. I'm going to know that I have put in the work. I'm going to let my body do the work. And that's the faith component. And then love, really the love of the game. I mean, so many times when we let fear cloud or move through that and cloud our joy, it's taking away that perspective and that memory and that desire. We got in this because we love it. How fun to go back to that child loving it and playing it before the pressure of success really hit us. And so as you share just those winning strategies, it's great to wrap it in the context of competitive greatness, because that's what we're going for. All of us here, we're going for greatness. And so anytime you're going for that greatness, it's great to have a formula. It's great to know that here's how I do it. So when fear of failure shows up or fear of success shows up, I've got this. Like it's in the playbook already, and I already know how to practice it. So let's talk about fear of success. So now I've somewhat made it. I've got my reps in. I'm practicing. I'm a starter. I'm, doing well. I'm executive now. And wow, oh my gosh, like I've got imposter syndrome, or I don't want people to know that I maybe don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, right. So once you've gotten there, it's a bit of a split. So you're worried that you're not going to be able to keep it up. That's a natural thought that can come into your head. That's also a negative automatic thought. But you clearly had put the work in. And so sometimes you need a gentle reminder that to get to the top of the mountain, you did do the work. So why don't you watch? So a really easy tactic for someone who is having fear of success is actually to watch video of some of their successes. And when you do this with clients, you'll actually might see a smile come on their face that, oh yeah, that was pretty cool. I can do this. I was in that stressful. They might even surprise themselves because they had forgotten to this point, there was maybe enough of a break, or maybe they've had some recent, failures, like things that hadn't gone well. They just need to be reminded. A lot of times too, then this happens a lot of times with the rookies with making the jump. And I know we're talking about fear of success, where folks that had success at that lower level, and they think that they have to then try harder, whatever that concept, try harder, that doesn't work. You have to trust that you already know what you're doing. So there's something called perfect pitch syndrome. So think of like again, I would love to use baseball. Sorry, I'm kind of a baseball guy. But you have a minor league pitcher who's making it to the major league level, and they think they have to be perfect with each pitch because now the hitters they're facing are the best in the business. As they try to paint the corners, but they don't have any cred with the umpires, and maybe they aren't getting the calls they used to be, and they're just not quite getting it, and then they tighten up, and it just never works. No one's perfect. I mean, there's a quote I'd read the other day about like how do gemologists pick out between what's fake and what's real? Well, the real ones have flaws.
I love that. Can we just have a moment of that beautiful quote? The real ones have flaws. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. The fake ones are
Perfect.
whatever perfect is. And anyway, so no one's perfect. So this whole perfectionism concept, you have to, constantly strive for the best, and then you get upset if you don't. It's like these goals aren't realities. You have to be okay with not hitting 100% every time. A lot of the kids I work with, they're high achievers in school. It's been beaten into them that they have to always make 100 on a test. If they get a 95, it's not good enough, and that just sets you up for, well, the real world doesn't work like that. So you're going to get really frustrated and upset. So being content, so shooting for contentness versus always being happy. I mean, I always am preaching that when I'm meeting the folks that I have, that you have to learn how to ride the wave. That the stress will come, it'll also go.
So, Mark, let's talk about the support team, because
Yep.
our athletes or our executives, whoever's listening, they can say, okay, I'm doing this. And then they get pinged constantly by the parent or somebody saying exactly that. Well, why aren't you starting? Or I can't believe you made that mistake, or, really focused in on the negative. What do they do with that?
So as far as getting negative feedback or having a coach
Well,
which is
really
negative.
respecting their support team, because our support team, like, let's just start with parents. They are
Yeah.
president of our fan club. They
Yes.
need to be for us, right? They've got like tunnel vision. They're watching every move we make, and they want to talk about it, and they want to analyze, and they're way, way, way too involved at this point, but they're there. And so how does an athlete really respect their support team, their parent on their support team, and also respect that they need to be able to manage their failures?
So it's a shift in mindset. So thinking of failure is not gloom and doom, but rather feedback, because no one's perfect. And so if your support team is giving you, we'll call it constructive criticism or whatever, because they care and they want you to do well and they want you to perform because everybody's got the same goal. Yeah. They're giving you feedback. And so that's very valuable. There can be also in-game feedback. So you've been told that your external viewers that are watching the game are giving you feedback after the game and during that dreaded drive home. Hopefully they're actually giving you a little bit of time. That's another topic for another day. But also in game, Greg Maddux, one of the best pitchers of all time, used to say, hitters have a funny way of telling me that something is not working, because they will just smash the ball out of the park. And then he has to then ground himself and realize, well, I'm going to try something else and make an in-game adjustment and just let it roll off his back. So just accepting the fact that these people care about you, are going to give you some helpful suggestions, that their intent is not to make you feel bad, but rather to help you succeed. So failure being feedback.
Yeah. Feedback that's for you. I
Correct.
really love adding that component, because the anchoring in, they care about me, gives you, because I'm envisioning just the film and the athletes and the teams that I work with, and you're already pretty beat up, because if you've had a loss as a high achiever, you're already focusing on every mistake possible and thinking about it. And then when you get in the car on the ride home or wherever you are, and the people that you love and you really want some support from, they start talking about all of that, it can be a heavy load to just anchor into, okay, I know they care about me. Okay, like, I can feel all of those winning strategies. My ability to do it could be a whole different game. And so what I'm hearing a winning strategy could be is some space, being able to say, okay, I'm going to have some space to myself. I want to talk an hour later, or something, to where you're owning whatever amount of time you need to kind of process and then be ready for that feedback that's for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Transitioning back to, again, we're talking about fear of success. So using a golf analogy, especially in practice, there's some drills that you can do where you do the dreaded 4-foot putt, and you have a much longer putt, or frankly just a hit tap in. I can assure you, there was an old study that was done similar to golf, but using the golf as a segue. if you're standing over a bucket with a piece of, like with a wadded up piece of paper, 100% chance of success. You know you're going to make it. 15 feet back is actually when you have the most fear, because you still see the bucket and you think, I should be able to make this. But 40 feet back, you have no fear because you don't actually probably think you're going to make it. And I can assure you that you'll be a lot looser and still have nearly as good of a chance as something in front. So when you're on the golf course putting, you just need to trust, again, the process. So this goes into the concept of growth mindset and trying hard things and deliberate practice. And so if you keep doing something that you know that you can do, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Replicated things that you know that you can do are not going to get really any better. So you have to stretch to the end of your capability and try hard things so that you can climb that mountain. And so learning how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, I guess, is the best way of putting it, so that you do actually grow.
Well, and Mark, I really want to embrace and accept the challenge of the joy of pushing ourselves and that joy of stretching and the joy of growing. I think about the comfort zone, and it's about this big, right? It's really small, and it's a matter of shrinking everything into what I feel really comfortable with. And what a gift to stretch and know that, okay, I'm in that fear zone. I'm definitely got some fear, and pushing through that to that learning and growth, and really enjoying the stretch and enjoying what it's taking for me to push myself. What are some winning strategies that can help me go from fear to growth?
Well, knowing that no one's perfect, that you are going to fail or just not necessarily have success every time. Again, trying to use some good cognitive reframes with some context here. So if you're going to fall forward. Yeah. Right. So fall forward with the intent of learning from the experience, getting that feedback, and achieving. There's Confucius, the old school philosopher, gold comes out of that person's mouth. He said, our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising each time we fall. So again, I mean, like there are so many quotes that go with this area of sports psychology, because it's just because different metaphors you can use. But seriously, trust that you know what you're doing. Keep in mind the context. Stick with the process. Know that fear is a normal emotion that's coming over you, whether you haven't been there or you have. If you have, remind yourself that you've done it before, maybe using help, using your trusted folks that are around you to kind of guide you and give you that feedback. And then go for it. Have fun. Play loose. Do you know that in his last game, Derek Jeter, okay, one of the best shortstops of all time, he said before the game, this is like post-game press conference, he said he was freaking out. He's like, I didn't want the ball hitting to me as shortstop. This is a guy who had never played with fear in his life. Because I didn't want to fail in front of the stadium. But somehow he was able to block that out and let it melt away and trust himself. He ends up getting the game-winning hit in his last game, which is just a cool coda to his career. The best athletes, and again, these winning strategies are ones who really end up getting that internal faith and trusting in themselves. And so that's why we're here, guys.
We just want you to hear. We want you to hear that, relax, enjoy, get back to really that fun and that forward focus. And feedback is for you. Anybody you've chosen to surround yourself with, they're for you. They're on the same team. So when they give you feedback, receive it with great love, compassion, and it can be hard sometimes. It's that pushing out of that comfort zone. And so set yourself up to be safe with the people that you love and support. Get a great support team. Mark and I are here for you as well. And most importantly, find the love again. That's what's so beautiful, is fall in love. As you fail, as you fall forward, fall in love with learning and just the joy of the adventure that you've chosen to invest in your life. So Mark, thank you so much for today. Any words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
No, I just have a lot of good books that people can read, and I'll share those online. Other than that, again, failure is a part of life, and then you have to learn how to move forward. And if you actually do want to achieve greatness, you have to be okay with challenging yourself, extending yourself, and then really, again, falling forward with the intent of picking yourself. Don't you can hate failure, but you have to embrace it and don't fear it.
Mm. Well, Mark, before we got on recording, we were talking about your son learning to walk. And I think it's just such a beautiful example. I think of that with my three little women. It's so fascinating when they were little and they were learning to walk and they would fall. We weren't like, oh my gosh, they're never going to walk, or we didn't pick them up and like make sure they never fail. We were like, okay, come on, you can do it. Right. So just being able to go back to that childlike faith and trust that, wow, you know what? And the good news is your little guy and my little women, they don't remember all those falls. That's nothing, right? It's just part of the process of learning how to become the great people they are. So I love just that visualization of our little guys trying to learn to walk and to eat their veggies or not eat their veggies or whatever it is. And it's just a matter of letting go of all of that and just enjoying the process.
Effort and grit, and he keeps getting back up, and he'll eventually take those steps. He's getting lots of encouragement. So again, president of the fan club being like, okay, dude, let's go.
And practice, 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 right? How many times are you standing and back up and getting a few feet in front of them and cheering them on, right?
Over. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, team, we are for you. We hope that you have found joy in our conversation, and we want to give you hope. You've got this. Go for the dreams that you want. Be competitively great. Practice truth, faith, and love. And most importantly, enjoy the journey you're on. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you.
Thanks.